I'm about to show you exactly what is going to happen with Bitcoin. Let's jump into the details. What's up, gang? It is I, Carlton Flowers, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And I have my hot coffee ready to keep my voice and throat clear so I can explain to you via the chart, the 4-hour, the 1 day, and the 1 week to show you what is about to happen with Bitcoin and why all of the obnoxious YouTubers keep getting this wrong. We have seen video after video of people calling for an all-out bull market, a bull run, a bounce from the 39K level. We were supposed to go straight up to the 50s, but then we see this big fat red candle happening here as you're looking at the 4-hour chart. So we are going to cover all of this and then break it down and give you an idea of what is most probable, not absolute, but the most probable outcomes for Bitcoin in the next week and in the next month or two. But first, let's get rid of my handsome face and we'll start right here on the 4-hour chart. So here recently, we had this big fat red candle that happened right here, and we shot on down to the 36,000 level. But then notice what happened. We got stuck in this next support and resistance zone. And for those of you who've never seen my videos, I've had these zones, this first one, second one, third one, and this bottom one on my charts for the last several months. And they have been dictating the Bitcoin movement ever since. Isn't it interesting that we magically have settled in where we did a quantum leap, where we touched on the bottom of this upper zone here? Notice how it was support and then resistance at the top of the zone. Then we bounced around it, failed it, but we jumped back in the middle. Then we failed it, then we came on back up, and what happened? We hit our head here and found resistance. And then we crawled down to the next level, and it was support. We jumped up from it again, came back down, and it was support again. And then we jumped up, and what did we do? Hit our head on the top of this upper channel as resistance. And then, as I always say, we have a situation of once, twice, 3 times a lady, and boom, we fill the bottom of this support zone of the middle zone. Now we are down in the third zone. So as we are sitting in here, we see some bouncing going on within the lower and upper limit of this zone. What else do you notice on this chart but this big, thick volume cluster centered around the 35,000 price? Isn't that interesting? Now look upstairs and we see this big volume cluster here that supports the bottom of the upper zone and then is the top of the second zone. And then price tends to jump back and forth between those nodes. And we see it happening all the time, just like how we saw this price here lines up with this node right there. Before that, we had a stop off point here that coincides with this node right here. And then we continue on where we see price coming up to a resistance here that lines up with this peak node here, so on and so forth. So here we are down into the third zone. What happens from here? Well, we'll look and see what the 4-hour chart says, and then we will compare to the 1 day and the 1 week for the longer term outlook. Okay, let's erase that and look downstairs for evidence. So what we see here is a crossover of the stochastic oscillators. We have the fast line, the blue one right there, and we have the slow line, the red one right there. And whenever that blue line crosses over the red line, we usually have a trend reversal. Okay, so let's look and see how this works. At this crossover, we go upstairs and we are crawling up a little bit in price. See that action right there? That coincides with this peak. But when we get all the way upstairs to the top and this peak produces a lower high, in other words, this high here is lower than the previous one, is lower than the previous one, and is lower than the previous one. So these are consecutive sets of lower highs. Here's high point number 1. The next one's lower. The next one's lower. The next one's lower. And then at number 5, it was higher. However, let's compare here. This high, this peak here, did not take out number 3. Okay? So for us to reverse trend, we need to take out number 1 right there to say that we have jumped out of this trend. All right, let's get rid of all of that and get back down here to the stochastic. So we have a crossover, and that says we might tick up, but you can't always believe the impending stochastic crossovers because they can unfurl. What do I mean by that? See this crossover that almost happened here? Didn't it look like we were at a bottom and the fast line was about to cross over the slow line and come on up? And then what did the blue line do? It gave up and dipped back down. So now we see that it crossed over here and it's pointing up. So it might do something like this and start another cycle up. It also looks like the MACD histogram has bottomed out. See the dark red? When we go from dark red to light red, that means we have a trend reversal possibly happening. We also notice that this blue line, the fast oscillator on the MACD, is starting to level out and get a little closer to the red line. They were diverging. See, after the cross, they get wider apart, and now the blue line is curling over, and it looks like it might be starting to come back towards the red slow line. So what could possibly happen is that this line just comes on around and then we get a full crossover, and then we would have the slow line doing something like that. That's possible. But then when we look at the overall, when we look at all of the peaks, all of these peaks, and we kind of connect the dots, we see an overall trend that is still going down. So there's a possibility that once that fast line comes all the way up, it could bounce its head here and we could get another crossover. And then our slow line would look something like this. All right. So in the immediate, it is possible that we can start a trend this way on the stochastic. And this little red candle that is forming right now could turn green, and we could test the upper limit of this zone number 3. Let's put some numbers on our zone so we remember what they are. So up at the top, this is zone number 1. This is zone number 2, zone 3, and zone 4 at the bottom. All right. So what we're going to do is test the top and see if it's resistance or not. One of two things will happen. We'll bump our head on the top of it, and if this stochastic goes all the way up to the top, once we get up here, if we have another peak like we did here, and we end up with another lower high, then the trend is going to continue. Now, we could also jump all the way back to zone 2. And it's even possible we could go all the way back up to zone number 1. But notice this big volume cluster right here on the VPVR, volume profile visible range, that shows the amount of Bitcoin bought at a certain price level instead of a certain time, including all prices. That's the difference between the two. So this is possible. We could see this happen, and then all the bulls, the perma bulls, are going to come out and say, here we go, folks. We're headed to 70,000, and this here is the beginning of the bull run. But I am not going to believe anything until I see what the reaction will be at the base of zone 1, or once we get to zone 2, if we make it out of zone 3. And so I would say that the possibilities would be as follows. I think it's the highest possibility that we bounce all the way back up to zone 2. I think the next possibility would be bouncing all the way up to zone 1. And then after that, I would say we don't make it out of zone 3. That's possible, but usually these bounces are going to be a little bit more than just the tight zone that we see here within this volume cluster, because there is a node that is in between the two clusters right here at around 37,000 that could pull it out of this zone. So we can get out. If we get out of zone 3, we can race up to 2 or race up to 1. But we got to get out of the gravitational tractor beam of zone 3 of this volume node. So picture the Starship Enterprise, and you got a big old tractor beam, and it's pulling in price and saying, I'm going to pull you in to this node, and it's dragging you in to this area right here. And then you have this other node, it's smaller, but he's trying to drag you into here. And then you got the big fat node that is saying, no, I want to pull you up into my node. Those are your powerful tractor beams that pull the price towards them. All right, enough of the 4-hour chart. Now you know what's going to happen in the short term. Let's go to the 1-day chart and see what it looks like from there. And then I got something special for you on the 1-week chart. Now here on the 1-day, this looks a little uglier, but it does support the thesis, the theory that I just gave you. So let's just look at this. We are in the middle of a red candle right now, which does not look too good, in the middle of zone number 3. There's our candle right there. And I don't think just yet that we're going to fail this zone. I really don't, because I don't see any volume over here. There's no node sticking out in front of me here on the 1-day chart that tells me within the next, say, 7 days that we're going to fail this zone and move down. However, you do have this great big node right here at the POC price. And that stands for point of control. And so the point of control is the strongest node on the visible range of the chart. It has the strongest gravitational pull. It's got the strongest Star Trek Enterprise tractor beam. So we see that at that POC, which comes in at 39,000, 38,900, somewhere around there, that's a strong pull right there. And what can happen is it can yank us all the way back up in here to zone 2 and just above, just like we talked about before. And momentum could sling us up here to the base of zone 1. And then we're going to find out, do we get rejected or not? I really don't know if we're going to make it all the way up to there. And I'll show you why on the 1-week chart, even though it is possible. It is possible. So as we're looking downstairs on the stochastic, this is weak. This is very indeterminate because we had a crossover here, and then we start to come up where the blue line is gapping away from the slow line, but then it came back towards it, and we almost had a crossover right there, but it was a fake out, and then the blue line goes up again. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know if this is going to shoot out this way or if it's going to roll over and come back down into the oversold zone. We'll have to wait and see. It's very indeterminate. We can't tell. However, what would tell me not to trust this reversed, this unfurled fake out of a crossover would be what's happening down here. Now look at the MACD. All right, we had a crossover and we had several little fake outs along the way where it looked like here and here and here and here that the blue line was going to cross over and start to come up. And what did it do? It unfurled each time, and now the blue line is heading south and diverging from the fast line. These oscillators are more general and trail this faster oscillator on the stochastic. And then it gives me an idea of what's pulling on this stochastic here. So I don't trust this here to turn out for the better and to move up because of what we see here. Now look at that, dark green on the histogram. Notice that we had one little green one, and now we've printed 2 red bars on the MACD histogram. Not good. And then also on the volume upstairs, look at these 2 bars here on the regular volume histogram. Those are huge. So that was a lot of volume, a double red in a row. And in general, volume is pretty weak. And we'll see this more clearly on the 1 week chart. But that's plenty of volume right now for this strong move down, for this reversal and somewhat of capitulation. Now, what else do we notice on this chart that sticks out like a sore thumb? Well, I see a couple things. Number one, we got the 200 exponential moving average sitting way up above. And we have the 50 exponential moving average sitting up above. And the 50 is below the 200, which means we have a bearish movement, a bearish trending trading channel. And we see that as we were trying to make it back up here to the 50, we got rejected before we touched it. We got a rejection on the 50 here, where it did wick through it, but then we failed. And then we also had the capitulation of the 50 right here, just a few weeks before. So we have not seen the light of day above the 200 EMA since here. And that was back in March. That's not too good. So for about 6 weeks here of action, we're below the 200 and below the 50. That is called bearish momentum. So I am thinking that based on this chart, the best we might see is coming up to this point of control or support resistance zone number 2, and then possibly a rejection. So we'll have to wait and see. Now let's clear that out. Now let's look at the big picture. And this one is very interesting, going to the 1 week. And I have something special for you. On the 1 week chart, I have drawn in some lines. You can see these parallel lines. And these lines make a flag formation. There is a bear flag forming. Now, to explain this, I'm going to show you a couple previous formations that played out. And they were bull flags. Here's one where we had a flag here that looks like this. That's called a bull flag. And then what happens is when you take the pole of the flag right here, this is the pole, all right? You make a measured move, and then you will basically pick up the pole of this flag and stick it at the breakout point, and it'll tell you how high the next move could possibly go. And sure enough, it did at least that and then more, all right? So that was bull flag number 1. Well, lo and behold, we had another one, all right? Let's look at the next bull flag. Here's where it started. It comes up to here. And then here's our little flag right there. Look at that bull flag. So let's take the pole and then pull it out and add it to the breakout point. And then that should give us the measured move of that movement. So here we go. We add it to the breakout point. And look what it did. Notice how it predicted almost to an exactness the top of the market at what, 69,000 or whatever it was. This wicked out up here somewhere around 68, 69,000. These are not exact, but they give us an idea. So here's the thing. I've been playing around with this black line here, but I'm going to actually, I'm going to make a line here to show you what this bear flag is doing. So when we do the exact opposite, we're going to make a bear flag. If it worked going up, it works going down. So let's notice that we have a base here, and let's just draw our new flag coming down. And then here's our bear flag. How about that, folks? Look at that. Would you look at that? That is just the opposite of what we had before. And now we're going to take out the pole and get a measured move. So we put it on the breakout point. It goes off the chart. Okay, strike that. Let's modify this. And let's just say, to make sure for argument's sake, let's put it within zone number 0, because we don't have, this is zone 1 down here. Zone 0 was up here. Let's just start at this big candle here, all right, from this green zone. Maybe this is the base and not this peak here, and we'll take out this red candle, all right? Then we take our measured move and stick this down here, and it's still off the chart, and I will have to scrunch down in order to get that in there. So let's scrunch the chart down like so. All right, here we go. Now let's make our flag again from zone 0 to the base here. And then we come on out and put our little flag waving in the air there. Here we go. There's our bear flag. Now we're going to extract the pole and put the point of beginning at the breakout of when we failed the flag. And notice what you see here. Isn't that magical? Would you look at that? Notice how it lines up exactly with this volume node that sticks out here right there at like 19, 20,000. Isn't that interesting? So this does not mean that we're going to 20,000 or 19,000. It just means that it's possible. Is it probable? Maybe not. Now let's investigate some other possibilities here, okay? Let's change this flagpole. Let's say, okay, this time we're going to get conservative here. And we're going to take out, we won't consider this first big red candle. Let's say the flag, the action starts here, which this is possible. It could be that the base is here. So let's take the pole out and get our measured move, place it at the breakout point. Well, would you look at that? Isn't that magical? It lines up exactly with this volume node sitting out here at 22,000. Okay? Well, let's make another one here. Let's say we're still wrong. Okay, let's scrunch this flag in like this maybe. This is a sloppy one and doesn't include this action up here, but this is just for, you know, the least case scenarios. And then if we call this the base and let's pull it down, let's just say this is the base of the flag. Now let's see if we can get our measured move. All right, we'll kind of pick up the pole and set it right there at the breakout point. And we notice that the measured move takes us to 29,000, 28,000, and we're hearing a lot of people talk about that. So I'm going to say there is a possibility, not financial advice, that we could end up in a zone right here. Okay, that's just possible where we could fail. We have zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we fail zone number 4, then we could be looking at this 28K possibility. It's not a definite, but it sure looks possible when you view this chart from the 1 week standpoint, combined with the fact that the momentum on the stochastic is headed straight south. And we also had a fake out here and a double crossover of the oscillators on the MACD, and we have an absolute downtrend on the peaks of the oscillators on this MACD, which tells me that it is possible to dip down in here again and have a low just like we did here and like we did here. So notice what we have when we look upstairs. At this low, we returned a price at around 36,000. At the next low, we had a price here. This wick comes down maybe just above it, so that's a higher high, so that's nice right there. But once we get to the bottom of this one, we could form a lower low, okay? But if we do, I'm going to say that that's the end of the trend and that this is going to be the beginning of the next major move upward. And overall, we could see, you know, something like this happening. And we could also see a movement down here to the 200. Now notice how this 200 is just also magically sitting down here, chilling down below. And if we extend the 200 a little bit, it's going to look something like this. Okay, it's still on the rise because of the previous movement, and maybe it breaks over like that. Now, there are other charts where you can see moving averages like the 3-day chart or the 1 month chart or whatever. This is just the moving averages on the 1 week. So when we look on the 1 week, we can say that it's possible to touch down to the 200, where I think that would be it. Once we touch on that 200, it's time to move up. And so let's see what the price is somewhere in this area. Look at that. It could be right in 28,000. So if our flag, if our bear flag plays out, here's our flag. We don't know exactly where the base of this flag is. However, if this flag plays out, it is possible that 28,000 could be the absolute low point, and we could catapult out of there like crazy. So now you know what the chart says on the 4 hour, on the 1 day, and the 1 week. And again, I caution you, this is not a prediction and this is not definite. I'm just looking to see what the chart says. That's all. Anything can happen. Make your own guesses and your own judgment, and just take this as a warning to be careful if you're playing with this market with money that you cannot afford to lose, or that you can't afford to sit aside for a long time. Because if you were to buy Bitcoin right now at 35,973, and then we do dip down to 28, you might be waiting a few months if you wanted to take that money back out. You may not have access to that money to be able to take it out. So be careful. Be very, very careful. So all I know is I'm in it to win it, and I hope we do go down to 28K, because I'm scooping up a little of everything on this market if that happens. Well, I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Pro channel, and chime in the comments and let me know your thoughts about this bear flag. Do you think that it is legit, or do you not see this happening? Let's just discuss it and chop it up. Either way, I'd love to hear your opinion. That's all I've got. This is Carlton, and I am out.